Hello, everybody. Welcome back to MnR University. I'm your assistant professor, Roger Bodee, joined as always with my best friend and other professor, Michael Hamilton. Michael, can you believe we're watching another Brodie Spurlock in the finals game?
I can't say I'm surprised. Brodie's been going to everything and crushing everything. So here we are. Brodie's playing Lexi MnR in the finals against Anthony Pham. Pham, is that how you say that?
I believe so.
Okay, I like that last name.
You're a big fan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but while Brodie's been, flying all over the country, winning battle hardens and all that stuff, you hit platinum recently in Street Fighter. So, who's the real winner?
I did hit platinum in Street Fighter. But, it seems like it's going to be a lot harder to hit diamond, though, because you don't get bonus win streak points. So, it's going to be a long grind. And with my 52% win rate, it'll take a while. But I'm having a good time.
So Lexi MnR, what's the most important thing? Codexes. I see already, but before we're about to start, I already see an ice quake that seems like it's going to be really impactful. What should we be looking out for here?
The most important card in the matchup, like in many matchups for Lexi, is Codex of Frailty. It's just the best value you get out of a card, and then additionally against Lexi, the Frailty token is worth usually 2 to 3 points of value. So on top of getting a card and a ponder token for a single card, you're also getting the value out of the Frailty token, getting several points of value there. So that's the most important card. That's not the only thing that matters in the matchup. Sometimes you can get multiple Frostbites in a hand with no blues, and that can be really deciding. And then just making good decisions with your equipment when you're blocking. And I guess the matchup's just pretty technical, where you want to make a lot of just numbers, best plays, and deciding when it's correct to block breakpoints can be difficult and interesting because, if they attack you with an arrow for 5, you'll have to give 2 cards to it or your hat, which usually you don't want to give your hat to it. So 2 cards if you want to block it out can be a challenging decision.
Yeah, that and remembering your hit triggers I think matters a lot too. But I guess we'll have to see if anybody misses any triggers.
Yeah. Lexi's on hits are very impactful. It is pretty important to remember them.
Yeah, especially Remorseless. So It looks like Anthony's the higher seed, so Brodie's on the play.
Yeah, Brodie has to go first.
So he loads a Bolt and Shot and passes, which is kind of smart, right? Because this way, if Lexi tries to load some arrows in at instant speed, you already have an arrow with plus power and go again in order to try to threaten a bunch of damage.
Yeah, though, since Brodie pitched a red to load this Bolt and Shot, if I were Anthony here, I would be pretty happy to pitch a card, load 1 arrow, and then just block the Bolt and Shot with one of the other 2 cards, or both the other 2 cards when it comes in, because if Brodie's going to fire another arrow, it's going to cost both of his cards to do so.
Yeah, and we know the other card or more than likely the other card Brodie arsenaled with that is going to be the Ice Quake, so he's going to be able to flip that up, Frostbite, buff the next attack, which is more than likely going to be that Bolt and Shot. Then the Bolt and Shot would add plus power and go again. So it seems like a pretty clean play he's set up for his future turn cycle.
Yeah, Brodie's turn 2 looks like it's going to be great.
But it looks like we're kicking things off with the potential 3 of a kind. Maybe that's the other reason why you don't activate Voltaire last turn?
Yeah, this looks like the reason that Anthony didn't go ahead and do it. But 3 of a kind actually isn't that great on your first turn of the game if you have nothing in Arsenal, because when you have a 4-card hand, it's not usually when you're looking to cast your 3 of a kinds, unless one of those cards is like a Rain Resist or an Art of War you can play beforehand to get some bonus power. But when you have a 4-card hand and you cast 3 of a kind, a lot of the time it's just going to be fire 2 arrows, maybe a quiver activation or something. Usually it's pretty hard to get value out of all 5 of those cards.
Yeah, but the awkward thing is if he loads Voltaire, he doesn't want to block with a 3 of a kind either, so...
Yeah, it's not really that big of a deal to block with a 3 of a kind. You could also just pitch the 3 of a kind as your resource card, and then if your other 2 cards block for 3, then you're pretty happy.
Yeah, but you're never getting the second cycle in this matchup, right?
Sure, but again, you're probably not getting more than a little more than a card of value out of 3 of a kind. It's probably not going to be worth 2 cards that we usually see it being, plus 2 cards that we usually see out of it. It'll probably be worth about 1 card here. So it's not that big of a deal too.
And he still has the quiver too of Rustling Leaves. So yeah, I guess there's some options with some hand flexibility on board though.
Yeah, I definitely think it's reasonable to just accept the pass here when you have 3 of a kind. especially if one of those other two cards is Art of War or Rain Razors. But
it doesn't look like that's the case. But it looks like he's actually just not even casting the 3 of a kind. He's going to arsenal it and maybe look to come in with this sleep dart.
Yeah, which I think this is a hamstring shot. But this does make a lot of sense. You save the 3 of a kind, you fire 2 arrows, you get an efficient turn, and then you have the 3 of a kind for a turn where it'll actually be more impactful.
And this turn was very clean off of blue pitch as well. So, unsurprisingly, Brodie in the tank over the 6 damage.
Yeah, it isn't an easy decision because this does have an on hit and you can cleanly block this with 2/3 blocks. So depending on his hand, it could be like, this is an arrow that I would definitely be considering blocking.
Looks like his hand is Searing Shot, Infecting Shot, Rain Razors, and an Endless Arrow. I don't know what color that Infecting Shot is, but so his hand looks like it could be kind of a little bit clunky, but if that Infecting Shot's blue, I think it all kind of lines up pretty cleanly.
Yeah, if his hand is all red, I would be surprised to see him not block, but it's likely that there's a resource card here. And this is kind of, I guess, part of why I'm not a big fan of Icequake is that it doesn't work very well if you like arsenal your Icequake and then you draw a hand that doesn't have a blue in it. It can be really hard to efficiently use the Icequake.
Yeah, it looks like life totals aren't being tracked at the top at the moment.
Yeah, Brodie should be at 29.
Yeah, because he took 6 and 5, so that's 11. Yeah, it looks like that was a blue Infecting Shot. And he's actually electing to attack with the Endless Arrow for 7 here, combining it with the Icequake, giving it go again.
Yeah, and this is a spot where you could easily just block with 3 cards with the plan of spending your last card to cast this 3 of a kind. Again, you really want the 3 of a kind to be, you want to use it when your hand's not full of cards. That's how you get the most value out of it.
Yeah, so it looks like, so Brodie didn't have any floating resources, importantly. So before that Rain Razors came down, the Endless Arrow might not have been the most impactful thing. I guess it's just annoying because it continually represents Frostbites, though, and like, how many Frostbites do you think you could play through even with the 3 of a kind in your arsenal?
Yeah, I guess the biggest reason not to block it with 3 cards is when it's face up coming in for 7. Blocking with 3 cards is overblocking by 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, this looks like it's going to end up pretty bad for Anthony here, where
I imagine he's just going to commit a bunch of cards to his hand, now blocking, arsenal another card, and then try to set up his 3 of a kind on a future turn.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm crazy and he's just going to eat a bunch more damage.
Yeah, not blocking this Bolt Shot means Brodie gets to fire the Endless Arrow without pitching another card or using Bullseye. So now Anthony's still in a spot where he has to block with 2 cards. Otherwise, Brodie can just snap Bullseye this for another 7 damage. And 3 Frostbites here also means that he can't cleanly pitch a single blue for the 3 of a kind. So it's going to cost a full extra card here. Seemed like a very impactful Icequake. Yeah, 3 damage and a whole card worth of pitch.
So he did keep 2 blues, which allowed him to cast a 3 of a kind with 2 resources floating. It looks like he drew a Bolton Shot, a Drill Shot, and a Searing Shot. So pretty clean, actually. He's going to be able to activate Voltaire for go again, activate Voltaire for +1, and then arsenal his last card. So
yeah, though I would like to see the Bolton Shot fired first, choosing +1, since you don't really want to arsenal that one. You'd rather arsenal one of these other arrows.
Well, there's an argument to arsenaling the Bolton Shot just because you haven't seen a Rain Razors or like any way to pump arrows. So it's the only arrow that can naturally go again off of a pump, right? Without having to commit Snapdragons.
Yeah, the biggest thing, though, the reason that you usually want to fire the Bolton Shot using Voltaire is when you use Voltaire with it, you get access to both +1 and go again, basically.
Oh, it was a blue Bolton Shot, and that makes sense. So instead he uses it to activate Quiver, hit red Infecting Shot, and he's going to attack with red Infecting Shot instead. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I thought it was a red Bolton Shot, so.
Okay. Yeah. It looks like this was even a blue Drill Shot.
Okay, just coming in for 2. So looks like potentially he just drew 2 or 3 blues off the 3 of a kind then.
Yeah, so Quiver coming in clutch there, finding the red infecting shot.
Yeah. Pretty big upgrade.
Brodie has a bunch of ice cards kind of clogged up in his hand at the moment.
Yeah, I saw a Winter's Bite and an Arctic Incarceration there, but Winter's Bite, one of the nice things about it is it's a resource card, and it's not bad in combination with other cards since it naturally has Go Again. You usually just trade it for a card.
That's fair. So back to Brodie's turn. Flip up a Searing Shot. And activate Voltaire. Pitching that blue Winter's Bite and then attacking with his own red infecting shot, 2 cards left in his hand. Do you think he's going to arsenal the Winter's Bite or play it now? He used it as a resource card. He's probably just going to play the Arctic Incarceration Arsenal as last card, but it depends if that has Go Again. So
it's usually much better to arsenal the Arctic rather than play it. The only times you really get into the spot where you're just playing it without arsenaling it first is when the game's getting close to the end, because you're giving up a full Frostbite there, which is a pretty big cost. So I would expect to see him fire the Searing Shot here and arsenal the Arctic. Though.
Instead, so what Brodie's train of thought probably was going through is that since Pham wasn't blocking at all, and he seemed very quick to not block off of those decisions, it probably signals that his hand's really good and that he wants to probably set up a pretty big turn. So maybe that is what encouraged Brodie to just fire off the Arctic just to try to make his hand a bit more clunky.
Yeah, and we'll see how that works out. If Anthony's hand doesn't have the resources to really function how he would want it to, then this Arctic could be huge here.
It looks like his hand wasn't amazing to begin with. And we know he has the Searing Shot in Arsenal. It looks like you don't... Okay. Yeah, so he activates Lexi, paying 3, flipping up the Searing Shot. Although the Searing Shot might be blue as well. It's looking kind of blue now that I look at it.
Yeah, I think it is blue.
And what's interesting about the Arctic as well from last turn, since he hit with the Infecting Shot, firing off the Arctic that turn makes it less likely that Pham would pay for the Blood Rot token if he does have excess resources in his hand. Instead, he's going to commit them to just playing his cards. I don't know how much that matters.
Yeah, that's not really relevant because all the 3 blocks in Lexi, all the blue pitch in Lexi, they either block for 2 or 3, so you can just block. If Anthony's plan was to pay for the Blood Rot, it's likely that he would have just blocked with the card instead. It does matter in the case of a 3 of a kind turn, but we're not in a 3 of a kind turn here.
Yeah. So it looks like Brodie's just using Tunic to activate Voltaire and then coming in with double Searing Shots. Okay, so we're a little late here. We're going to pause the video now. Who's ahead?
Yeah, this game has actually gone fairly quickly. So Anthony has 3 cards here, and it's going into his turn. He's down 3 life, and he's used up his Tunic. Though Brodie's Tunic has no resources on it, and it also has a -1 counter on it, so it can't really block. I think it depends a lot on these last 3 cards. I would say right now the game seems fairly close to even to me.
Yeah. I would give the slight edge to Brodie, just because I don't think he's played a 3 of a kind yet. And Pham's down a 3 of a kind, so that's a pretty important resource. Pham also hasn't seen Rain Razors yet, so if with these lower life totals, him drawing cards that don't block could actually become a pretty big liability. So I think just given those like small deck differences, I think Brodie, and then obviously just the 3 life as well, Brodie seems slightly ahead, but I think a lot, like you said, it is going to come down to just the overall texture of these last few hands here.
Yeah, those are both good points. Drawing Rain Razors in a spot where you have to block with multiple cards from your hand can be quite bad. Though if you are able to combine it with a big Endless Arrow turn, it can be okay. But I also think one big relevant factor is neither player has seen a Codex yet, and Codexes can be very, very swingy and game deciding. So it could come down to just who draws their power cards from here.
Yeah. And to be fair, this turn's not amazing from Anthony. So this is just a premeditate for this infecting shot's coming in for 8 and then 2. So if Brodie's hand, if he thinks he can close the game with his hand and just put Anthony in like a major back foot, like with something like his own Codex, or he has another Rain Razors or something like that, or his own 3 of a kind turn, he can just take all this damage, not even have to worry about the Blood Rot, go to 2 and just heavily push a lot of damage here.
Yeah, it should be 9 because of the premeditate. And even if Brodie has a hand of 3/3 blocks and a Codex, or yeah, the Voltaire. If Brodie has a hand like 3/3 blocks and a Codex or something, I think he's very happy just blocking out this 3-card 9 from Anthony and playing something strong on his turn.
And we see
3 reds, 2 Falcon Wings, and a Remorseless. I haven't seen this, but yeah, so this Codex is huge. You can get just...
Yeah, and Anthony has to get a card from his discard, put it into his arsenal. Looks like he's going to choose Endless Arrow. I don't know. There's not an amazing choice overall, I would say.
Yeah, and now I think Brodie's pretty far ahead, given that Anthony's turn was just a 3-card 9 that Brodie was able to block out with 3 cards and save the last card as a Codex, which is, again, the strongest card. One of the strongest cards in the matchup, if not the strongest card. So this Codex is getting 2 damage through, trading for a card and drawing a card. And giving this Frailty token. So
Endless Arrow for 3.
Yeah, so this looks like a Snapdragon's Bullseye Bracers to me. You really don't want to waste this last card, and he took 2 damage from the Searing Shot by not blocking, so there's almost certainly a plan for the last card. It could be a Rain Razors as well, which Brodie has to think about here, because Rain Razors is one of the ways that this game could go kind of poorly, is if this Endless Arrow gets Rain Razors and then Snapdragon's Bullseyed and comes in for 6, demanding 2 more cards after Brodie blocks this with a single 3 block.
Well, 5 plus 6 is still only 11.
That's true, though there would be a card left.
Yeah. But he wouldn't really be able to use it, right?
Yeah, so I guess it could be Snapdragons, and then instead of Bullseye, it could be pitch a card to load the Voltaire.
Or I guess if his hand is very specifically Rain Razor's Codex, Brodie's in trouble.
That would be very powerful.
I think that's the most punishing hand combination. Brodie's hand looks pretty good. I see Winter's Bite, the Icequake, and then a couple of good arrows. We do see Pham elect to use the Snapdragon Scalers.
Yeah, so Brodie kind of just hedges around the Rain Razors. He's like, if you're Rain Razoring me, I want to know before I commit any cards. So he just took the first hit, and then the second one he would be able to block out.
Now he's attacking with Falcon Wing, coming in with a Rain Razors for 3 again. So this is going to be 3 plus 4.
Wait. He's attacking with Endless Arrow, pitching the Falcon Wing.
Sorry, yeah, my bad. He pitched Falcon Wing to Voltaire, activate Voltaire, giving the Rain Razors from his hand, go again. So it's coming in for 3. His last card is another copy of Endless Arrows, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be 3 plus another 4, which is still only 7 points of damage.
Yeah.
So I think Brodie can pretty safely no blocks this.
Yeah, he's still in a rough spot if he says no blocks on this and Anthony's last card's the Rain Razors. But if you block for 3 and Anthony's last card's the Rain Razors, it's even worse. So then it looks like he chose Go again to force a card out of Brodie's hand. But I think that might have been a small mistake, because Brodie can very easily just block with a single card if he doesn't choose +1 to threaten to just get the card back.
And look at that, a Rain Razor's in his hand on a turn where he's going to have to block, along with a 3 of a kind.
Yeah, so he should probably just either pitch or discard the Rain Razors to the Winter's Bite, since it doesn't block, and...
Yeah. We see just that.
And then hope he gets to keep 1 card left to play this. And
the last card he drew off the Ponder token last turn was 3 of a kind. That's gross.
Yeah.
Very Brodie Spurlock thing to happen.
To be fair, I think Brodie was in pretty good shape after the Codex resolved, and Anthony's follow-up wasn't. very good.
So, yeah, I was going to say this looks like a good opportunity to block with New Horizons now, as much as there is good opportunities too.
Mm-hmm.
But he still has 1 Voltaire activation, Bullseye Bracers, Snapdragon Scalers, and 3 cards in hand? 2 cards in hand? Yeah, 2 cards in hand. So, still a lot of opportunities to push a lot of damage here. But it looks like he's just light on resources. Withering Shot's going to come in. The Frailty Token's not really going to matter. The Frostbite's not really going to matter. Anthony's just going to draw back up, and it's Brodie on a 5-card hand versus Anthony at 5.
Yeah, and with Brodie on a 5-card hand, he still has his Tunic available. I think it just ticked up to 3 this turn. It's even if Anthony lives this turn, he'll probably be so far behind that there's not really a way to come back into the game.
Yeah. Once again, Winner's Bite stripping a card out of Anthony's hand, making it so he can't block. No more blocking equipment left available to him, so it's going to be really hard for him to kind of absorb this oncoming onslaught of arrows. It's almost like your first 3-of-a-kind draws you closer to all of your future 3-of-a-kinds. You ever think about that?
That's not usually how I think about it, but it is true. It is just how it works. You draw 3 cards, you're more likely to find your cards that you want. Yeah. So Anthony on a 3-card hand against a Rainrazor's 3-of-a-kind turn, it seems very unlikely that he even lives through this turn.
Yep. Bullseye Bracer, Searing. Yep. So lots of damage. 3-of-a-kind, Rainrazors. Very good combination of cards. Lexi wins another tournament. Lexi won the PTI event last week. Lexi won this Battle Hardened. And then, lo and behold, Lexi was the finals of the PTI tournament as well. So that's 3 tournaments in a row of just Lexi finals. But it seems like it's in a healthy spot.
No, I think it's kind of clear Lexi's just the best deck by a reasonable margin. Even like the decks that are trying to adapt to fight her. We've seen Uzuri try to be able to fight her. We've seen Oldheim try to fatigue her, and like she's able to kind of adapt to fight these different strategies. And it's just like, honestly, her cards, she has the most powerful cards in the game by a reasonable amount right now. Her equipment's not outstanding. I think Voltaire and New Horizons are both pretty good, and then outside of that, it's just like Bullseye Bracers and Snapdragons are kind of just fine, and then Tunic's just like the chess piece. So I think this is, I would say this is the first hero that we've seen that's like the best, like probably the best hero in the format that in my opinion doesn't have overwhelmingly powerful equipment. Whereas like when Rune Blades and Guardians were on top, I felt like a big part of that was because their equipment was just like leaps and bounds ahead of the other heroes in the game. Lexi, I think it's just like the power of her individual cards. 3-of-a-kind, Codex of Frailty, Rainrazor's Endless Arrow, and then all these hard to block arrows with on hits that are just very, very impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously 3-of-a-kind being able to play well both on offense and defense, and her just having lots of ways to use her resources between bow activations, her new quiver. Yeah, just lots of very, very flexible hero now, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see her get toned down in the next ban announcement. I think I was like more on the fence before the results of the tournaments this weekend and last weekend, where Lexi just, was it last weekend? 2 weekends ago? Whenever it was. Yeah, so, yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, well, the next time you're playing Lexi Mirrors in your finals of your next event, always remember, mind your manners. Thanks for watching.